All right, today's video is going to be on seeding Zenith Zoysia Grass Seed. I've got my backyard renovation that I've been working on for the last 5 or 6 weeks now. Got hundreds of hours in this prep work, but this last step is just putting out the grass seed, and that's what we're going to be dedicating this video to, and how I go about mixing it up and broadcasting it out. So this is the Zenith Zoysia Grass Seed I'm going with today. It's produced by Supersod. You can pick up different variations of it at the big box stores, but I always order mine online. This happened came from domyown.com. I've ordered from Hancock's before, Seed Ranch. Any of those distributors are good. They're all going to be the same price. It's about $40 a pound. The recommended rate on this is 1 to 2 pounds per 1,000 square foot. So on my previous renovations, I've done anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5, just whatever it works out to be. So this is going to be 8 pounds over 6,300 square feet. The next step is getting you some homogeneous type fertilizer. Milorganite would probably work fine. This just happens to be the X-Green 818. It works really well. You just need something with kind of a small peril size. Organic is a good option too, because you're going to be putting out a little bit of nitrogen when you put this out. We've already put out our starter fertilizer before we put the seed out and aerated it down into the dirt. So we don't want to put a ton of nitrogen out there. So we're going to probably put out about 10 pounds. First pass we're going to make is going to be around the perimeter of the yard. If you're using a Lesco type spreader like I have here, we're going to have the edge guard down and the third hole completely closed. If you turn this spreader upside down, there's actually a tab that slides in and out on the far left-hand hole. That's what they call the third hole, and you want to keep it about a third open whenever you're running a broadcast pattern in the middle of the yard. But on these edge passes, we want to keep it completely closed, because that's what keeps the seed from slinging to the far right. If you run with just the guard down on the side, it's still going to sling some seed over into the right. So there's a couple different options with these perimeter passes. The best would probably be a drop type spreader. I don't personally own a drop type spreader, so I just use my broadcast spreader with the edge guard down. Another option would be just go around by hand and put it out in the last foot or two. So I'm on the side of the fence where I want the seed edges to be really thick going into the first winter. So I'm gonna stay up right against the edge with my edge guard down, and then I'm gonna probably get a little bit of seed overspread into my landscape beds. It's really not that big of a deal. The best thing to do is go around with pre-emergent and put out some snapshot or something in your beds to keep that seed from germinating in your beds. Otherwise, you'll go around and round up it after it germinates. So if you want to see all the preparations that went into this renovation, you can check out the link above. I've got a whole series of videos that showed from where we did the first initial roundup all the way through the grading, irrigation install, and then soil amendments and seed bed preparation to get us to this final step. We just finished our first pass, and this is what we have left. We're probably about half a hopper left, maybe just slightly more. We're not going to do another edge pass, so I actually took this down to 8 after I did my edge pass. We were on 10, so I'm going to bump it back up to about 9, and we're going to try that for our final pass. The reason we're mixing the seed with the fertilizer is just so that we have more volume, and that way when you go out and broadcasting, you can set your setting on a little bit higher setting, and you get a lot better distribution and seed pattern. If you go out with just seed, it's kind of small and light, and it doesn't seem to put out quite as good of a pattern. You could use sand for this situation also, but I find that fertilizer tends to work a little bit better. I don't think there's really a specific ratio of fertilizer or sand to your seed mixture. You're really just using it as a carrier and to give you some more volume to work with. Not sure if it'll show up on camera, but this is about what 1.5 pounds of seed per 1,000 square feet look like. So it's very little seed. And that's all it takes for the Zenith Zoysia grass. So the goal here today is to make multiple passes over the yard. We're going to do 2 passes, one perpendicular to the other, and then hopefully by the end of that second pass, we'll have maybe 1 or 2 pounds of product left over. We can really dial that setting back and make a third really light pass over the entirety of the yard. Probably about 2 pounds of material left after we did a crisscross pattern. So we're going to do a third pass, and we're going to set it on a little bit lower setting and try to cover the main areas best we can. Now that we got all our seed out, we're going to pull this drag mat, and it's going to basically just curl over those ridges that we made from the cultipacker, and it's going to bury this seed and kind of mix it in with the dirt. The closer it is to the surface, the quicker and better it's going to germinate, but you got to get it down in there just a little bit so it doesn't float off. All right, so I just went through and I hand raked a few little high areas that I saw where the drag made a little mound, and then I picked up as many of the rocks as I could find in here. I don't really have to worry about all the rocks. I used to worry a little bit more than I should have about it. A lot of those will get pushed down in the ground. Even if you're real mowing, those are going to disappear into the dirt. And what I'll do is whenever I come out here to hand pull some weeds 3 or 4 weeks from now, I will pick up any of the rocks that I see and get the remaining ones on the surface. All right, only one thing left to do, and it's easily the most important and most overlooked part of a renovation, whether you're doing seed or sod, and that's irrigation. So for this renovation, I need to go through and adjust all my heads. Since they've all been reset, I need to get the overlap correct on them and then the arc correct on them. And then I'm gonna be setting these things for at least 4 times a day, and I'll just keep an eye on it. But it's gonna be different for every system. You basically just want to keep the seed moist. So for me, that's probably gonna be about 4 times a day. And we're gonna start out with about probably 10 or 15 minutes a zone. So on the initial watering, I'll probably run about a ½ inch of water out of it. So I'll do a complete run on it just like I would if I was watering it on established turf. Today's a good day. The backyard project is complete. Got the irrigation running on it for the first time. I'm extremely happy with how it turned out. Appreciate y'all watching and supporting the channel. We'll give an update as we start to see some germination. It's hard to capture everything done on this backyard. A lot of back-breaking work. I've got probably 200 man hours in this, just working on it by myself. I'm very peculiar on what I do, and I like for everything to be working correctly and be enjoyable to work on and do in the future. So we're trying to set ourselves up the best we can for success on mowing and fertilization and everything coming forward with this. So thanks for sticking around, and if you got any questions or comments, just leave them below. I'll try to answer them.